Have you ever poured hours into a beautifully clear lecture and then your students just didn't get it? You read the discussion board and think, did I speak a language they didn't understand? Or you start grading and feel like you've been transported to the twilight zone. It's frustrating and it can make us question whether we're doing enough or doing the right things. Hi, I'm Dr. Kelly Alston. Today, we are tackling one of the most common pain points in higher ed, closing the gap between what we teach and what students actually learn. And I am so excited to show you how using reflection and AI can help you do your part to minimize this gap in your courses. If you've explained something 10 different ways and it still isn't landing, don't be hard on yourself. This isn't a sign to grind harder. It's a prompt to step back, reflect, and examine the situation differently. That's why I created the Mindful Academic Challenge, a 16-week guided reflection experience anchored by my journal, The Professor's Week in Review. Each week, you spend about 30 minutes with prompts like, what did you learn about yourself this week? What did you learn about your students? What will you strive to do differently? I also host optional Saturday co-reflection sessions where you can respond to the prompts, debrief, and share insights with a small supportive group. Even if you can't join live or you just don't desire to, you will get gentle, inspiring reminders in your inbox from me to keep you moving. As we dive in today, think about how a weekly structured reflection rhythm could help you finally bridge those success gaps in your courses without guessing. The student success or achievement gap is the persistent disparity in educational outcomes among different groups of learners. It exists at every level, from kindergarten to graduate school, and boils down to this. When the needs of all learners aren't met, predictable groups experience worse outcomes that ripple into other areas of life. In higher education, three common contributors show up again and again. Number one, assumptions about prior knowledge and skills. Number two, one size fits all instructional approaches. And number three, assessments misaligned with learning outcomes. And even if your campus looks homogeneous on paper, these gaps can still exist inside your courses. Let me give you a quick review of higher education's roots so you can understand how we've gotten to where we are today. The university model that took shape around the 12th century in Paris and Bologna prioritized transmission of knowledge from a few experts to many listeners. The lecture became the fundamental unit. You see, the term lecturer literally means the one who reads. Isn't that something? Over time, standardized courses, accreditation, and cost efficient written exams reinforced transmission of knowledge over transformation of the learner. Hmm. Fast forward to today, more and more people started going to college, having access to college. And despite decades of research showing that active learning outperforms conventional lecturing, many courses, about half, still rely primarily on lecture. Robert M. Diamond reminds us that students' critical thinking growth correlates with active involvement, meaningful faculty interaction, and high level peer responses, not passive note taking. So, the bottom line is whether we teach online or face to face, the research is clear. We need more intentional engagement and practice, practice, practice with less one way transmission. So let's talk about these common causes of the student success gap that I mentioned earlier. Assumptions about prior knowledge and skills. All right, it's confession time. For years, I taught a senior level research course. There was a capstone project with a detailed rubric, step by step instructions, and I just assumed that seniors could write a 10 to 12-page research paper with clarity and structure. Then the first batch rolled in. Many of my students struggle with crafting an engaging introduction and clear thesis, building coherent paragraphs around main ideas, and writing a conclusion that actually concludes. Across 15 to 20 students per semester, only a few papers met senior level expectations. My assumption that they arrived with these skills, because this wasn't an English course, mind you, was simply wrong. Here's where reflection shifted everything. When I asked myself, what am I learning about my students? The answer revealed that they needed structured skill building, not just instructions and rubrics. So, I completed a task analysis, which allowed me to break down this complex task of writing a research paper into smaller, manageable steps. I thought of it as creating a systematic approach or a ladder to success that would make the assignment easier to execute. Here's what I changed. I chunked the assignment into milestones. I added short how to videos and strong samples for each milestone. I held one on one topic calls to help each student find a motivating, researchable angle. I used small group working sessions on outlines with a clear template and rubric. And then what was really fun, I ran an intro paragraph plus thesis hot seat. I'm giving you the air quotes, where the students voluntarily shared. They got quick peer critiques and my coaching. I actually had them to go into breakout groups and critique each other. And then when they came back into the whole group session, they could volunteer if they wanted to share. And then I add my 2 cents to the mix. But the part they really liked was that I awarded extra credit for appointments with our writing studio which many of them had never used ever in life. And of course, the tutors in the writing studio would send me confirmations. The result of restructuring this assignment was that the quality of writing, confidence, and engagement rose every semester, year after year. The work didn't become easier, but the process did, which was what students actually needed. Let's talk about one size fits all instruction. Harvard physicist Eric Mazer, who's also an expert in teaching, he likes to ask his audiences to think of something you're really good at. How did you get good at it? Shockingly, 0% of people say, by listening to lectures, by listening to lectures. And it tracks with how learning actually works. In the second edition of How Learning Works, Levitt and colleagues define learning as this. Please take a screenshot of this or write this down. A process, not a product. We clap for emphasis. A change. I said a change in knowledge, beliefs, behaviors, or attitudes that, listen to this, y'all, unfolds over time. I just want to read that one more time. Learning is a change in knowledge, beliefs, behaviors, or attitudes that unfolds over time. It's also something that students do. I got to say it again. I just have to. Something that students do. Let me tell you, the students under my facilitation knew one thing that I would say over and over and over again, and that is you learn by doing. You learn by doing. One more time. You learn by doing. So I love when I read in How Learning Works that they specifically said this, that is something that students do, not something that is done to them. And it is based on how they interpret and respond to their experiences. So when the question, how well did you facilitate this week, comes up in the journal, when you get to that page, it forces you to dig deeper and become more practical. You might even ask yourself, where specifically do students practice the outcome I claim they will master? Because remember, learning unfolds over time. So it's not a one-time thing. You might also ask yourself, how often do they revisit it with timely feedback? Because they need my expertise, right? I'm an instructor for a reason. So they need my coaching and support to get better at something. Then you also might say, how do I design learning experiences that stick beyond the virtual or physical walls of this course? Now let's move on to misaligned assessments. Unfortunately, many of us hear assessment and think test. How many quizzes are we going to give? What's the midterm exam going to be? What's the final exam going to be? That comes from that old school higher ed thinking. But you see, assessment is much more than a test. It is a decision-making process. I repeat, it is a decision-making process. a way to gather information and adjust instruction. A good example of assessment is piano lessons. When I took piano lessons, my teacher didn't assign a piece and then move on to other pieces while expecting me to show up at the recital able to play the piece. No, 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 no. Her name was Miss Prescott. And she took the time to teach by modeling and then pointing out important elements of the piece during my lesson. I practiced daily and then I returned the following week for feedback and repeated the cycle until I could play it well. Then, if she believed the piece to be recital worthy, it was selected. As a result, I was ready, nervous, but ready to play the piece because I had practiced it over and over again and received the support that I needed to play it well. That's what assessment should look like: repetition plus timely feedback until the learner owns the skill. The recital or the exam is just a showcase of what one has mastered. Reflection slows down our pace so that we can see patterns. Often, the block that students are having is at the application stage. It may seem like they know it, but then you find out that they can't use it. And if we look at our examples or our assignments or the way that we're teaching, we might find that our directions or our delivery is clear to us, but not to them. I experienced this with my assignments that were not of the quality that I wanted them to be. And so, by reflecting on what am I learning about my students, it caused me to think about, well, what do they need for me to help them understand the quality I'm looking for or the learning experience that I want them to have through this assignment? So I developed a 5-part assignment formula. I gave them recipe style instructions with concrete steps, an assignment specific rubric that they could use as a checklist, short instructional videos, well, some not so short, student samples with commentary, and helpful resources. Anything that would help them be more successful on that assignment, whether that was a YouTube video or send them to a website or anything, I would include that as well. And once I created this assignment formula, the questions decreased, the work quality improved, and students gained confidence. So now I want to help you make this make sense. Let's do a practical activity where I'm going to show you how to use reflection plus AI to minimize this student success gap. Are you ready? All right, grab a sheet of paper because we're going to do like a 5-minute audit on one of your courses. Make a quick 4-column table on paper, or you could do it on your device that you're on right now. In column 1, I want you to put one learning outcome from your syllabus. Then I want you to go all through your course schedule, go through your syllabus, look at your lessons, your lectures, or however you're teaching, whether it's active learning, whatever you do. And I want you to find yourself guilty of having your students practice that skill 3 times. So we're going on a treasure hunt through your schedule or your syllabus to find 3 distinct practice opportunities for that outcome. And in each column, 2, 3, and 4, I want you to write the date from your syllabus and the specific activity that your students are going to do that gives them that practice opportunity. And note where feedback happens. So if it's a live course, does the feedback happen during class? Do you give written feedback? Do you give video feedback? How does that feedback occur? Once you see that you have 3 practice opportunities, give it a check mark. Check it off. I used to tell my students in one of my methodology courses that they could use a triangle. So when they're looking for the student to practice a skill, the left side of the triangle, okay, that's one opportunity, or that's one piece of evidence. Then the right side of the triangle is another piece of evidence. And then the bottom part of the triangle means that, oh, I've seen this child do this 3 times. Well, I'm directing you to do the same thing with your syllabus. Many outcomes, though, especially soft skills, need more than 3 reps. 3 is just the floor, not the ceiling. This audit simply shows whether your current design gives students enough real practice to make mastery realistic. Now, what happens when you see that your students are not getting enough practice in your course with a particular skill? Well, here's where AI can help you design targeted, high yield reps fast. I'm going to include this prompt in the description if you want to use it, and I'm going to try to go over it as fast as possible. So you're going to paste this inside your AI tool and fill in the blanks. You are a college instructor who teaches with the course name. You're going to give the course description. You're going to give the target learning outcome and the mastery goal. I usually like for the goal to be that the student demonstrates at least 85% proficiency by the end of the course. And then you're going to tell AI this right here. Design 3 cooperative active learning tasks for a face to face or synchronous online class that gives students repeated authentic practice toward this outcome. The task can be different or one major task broken into 3 parts. Allowed approaches include discussions, case studies, problem based learning, scenario based learning, experiential learning, story based learning, game based learning, and design based learning. For each task, provide length of time, group setup, step by step instructions. Let me slow down a bit. How this activity improves proficiency on the outcome, and materials or resources that are needed. And then the good part, all of it's good. But I want you to end with this. Tell AI, finally propose one summative assessment students can complete to show 85% or greater proficiency on the outcome. Include criteria and brief rubric rows aligned to the outcome. Now, if you don't want to, let's just say you want this to be an asynchronous experience and you want individual activities, then that's fine. We're going to tweak the first paragraph and say design 3 independent active learning activities students can complete asynchronously, and then say include peer or instructor feedback mechanisms appropriate for async delivery. For the individual products, you'd say focus tasks on individual projects/products rather than group work. Okay? All right. Remember, I'm putting this in the description if you need it. Now, pro tips to sharpen the output. You can also include this if you like. You can add student skill sets and interests. Let's say, for example, you know your students prerequisite skills already. Maybe you did some type of survey or there was some type of test they passed before they took the course, or you know their reading levels, you know a lot about their abilities or their interests. You can include that. You can also specify any course constraints. Let's say you want these activities to be within 45-minute blocks of time. You would tell AI that. You can ask for fillable worksheets if they're needed, checklists or templates. And then I want to say this: always review and edit for accuracy, feasibility, workload, and alignment before adding to your syllabus. Because AI does the drafts, but you do the design. You are ultimately the learning designer for your course. Remember this, as I emphasized earlier, students learn by doing, not busy work, but meaningful practice with timely feedback. Build the reps, keep the loops tight, and keep your sanity. Think about this. If your course were a marching band, would your students get enough rehearsal to perform a high level, or at a high level, I should say? That image alone will tighten the way you approach learning design, instructional design, curriculum and instruction, all the things. All right. Now, use the Professor's Week in Review prompts to translate your audit into action. What did you learn about yourself this week? What did you learn about your students? What will you continue doing? What will you strive to do differently? Who might support you? Because maybe you need help designing active learning, whether that's AI or human resource. That's okay. Imagine the compounding effect of answering those 5 questions every single week. That's how the success gap narrows consistently and intentionally, one instructor and one course at a time. Reflection helps you stop guessing and start making targeted adjustments. It loosens our grip on inherited practices that don't serve today's learners and keeps us tuned to a changing world. So when someone moves our cheese, we adapt with purpose. Our students, our students invest so much time and effort and money into higher education. They deserve to graduate with transferable skills regardless of major. Be the instructor who makes that possible. If you want to consistently spot and address these gaps, join the Mindful Academic Challenge. You will have encouragement and support as you work through the Professor's Week in Review prompts each week, so you can see your teaching and your students with fresh eyes. The link to join is in the description and the QR code on screen. In our next video of this series, we'll talk about how reflective practice can fix a broken feedback loop on your assessments so that they measure what matters. Don't you miss it. Let's make it a mindful semester. Bye bye.